Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the My Generation podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing my review quickly of the movie Tenet by Christopher Nolan. It was such a great movie to finally be back in cinemas after so long. I haven't been to a cinema since I watched Dark Waters back in March. I went to a Curzon cinema. Everyone had to have face masks, hand sanitizer. It was, socially distant. All the chairs were apart. So it was really nice to be just finally back in a cinema with that surround sound, experiencing the movie together with people. And from the moment this film opens with the incredible set piece it has, I immediately felt the sound hitting me, and I knew that I was back in for a ride. In terms of what Tenet is, it's hard to describe really without spoilers, which I won't be going into in this review. It's a film that explores time, going backwards and forwards, what that all means, and how it's being weaponized in the future. And you get a lot of that information out of the trailer. That's really the simplest way I can describe it. To me, this is not Nolan's best movie, but it is a seriously good one. It's a visual spectacle. The set pieces is where I want to start off because they are phenomenal. You have characters traveling backwards in time, forwards in time, backwards then forwards again, buildings exploding and then building themselves back up only to explode again. The actual effects are incredible. There's really subtle foreshadowing early on in the film for how moments will affect later moments in the film as well. And overall, the way the action pieces are done are just perfect. Every single one had tension to it and an emotional weight. I really enjoyed every bit of action in there. The sound design also so great, and the music was gorgeous. The music had this feeling that it was going backwards, and as a result, it just worked for the soundtrack. I had a big smile on my face anytime any music was playing over this film. But the dialogue was weirdly sometimes difficult to hear. It seemed like it was fairly maybe either low in the mix, or it was just getting drowned out by other sounds. There's a scene early on in a boat where the sort of engine of the boat is overpowering the sound of the people speaking, which I find to be an odd decision, and that pops up a few times throughout the movie. It didn't take me out of the experience too much, but that's my only sort of technical point of notes that was difficult for this film. In terms of performances, incredible. All round, everyone did really well with the material they had and was likable and memorable in their own way. I'll remember all the characters from this film. But one thing that was difficult for these characters was their sort of emotional connection. You don't know a lot about any of the characters, and some of them seem to sort of come out of nowhere fairly early on. Their relationships aren't really established too well, except for the sort of main villain character and what he's after. But our main character, where they're from, it keeps it fairly distant until sort of later on in the film. You don't really feel the emotional connection to the characters. So whilst I'm watching this incredible spectacle, I'm not always there with them, which I found quite, difficult because I didn't emotionally invest in what they were doing. As the film goes on, I think it gets better and better and better, really. So I think the first half, because Christopher Nolan as a director likes to keep so much mystery, he likes to hold so much information back to keep you guessing. I think that's really great, and I'm a big fan of his films for that. But I think this time it actually went a little bit too far. And sometimes I lost where I was. It's a really complicated movie. The first half is setting up loads of breadcrumbs for the second half, but sometimes, and it's also explaining what Tenet is and how the mechanics work of the film. But sometimes I was getting lost in it, and I don't know if that's just me, but it did make it quite difficult to get through the first half at times. However, repeat viewings will be very good with this film. I've only seen it once at the time of recording, but I plan to see it again. And I think the second time I see it, I will have a much greater appreciation for what the film means, because I will see all those breadcrumbs forming up. And I should get actually quite a good idea of what it all means overall, seeing that first half again with the information I have in the second. I just think this is, I think Chris Stuckman said it in his review. The word he used was inaccessible, because this film is really great to watch. The spectacle's beautiful, technically really well done, and I enjoyed myself, as did my dad, who I saw this with. But I found that, Inception deals with time in a very complicated way, his film from 2010. But Inception felt a little bit easier to grasp. The characters had motivation. There was real emotional tension in that film. And a bit of that is lost in Tenet. And I think the time angle of it and the actual physical set pieces are so much better than Inception's, except maybe for the gravity hallway scene. But Inception does a lot more of a better job of making the story digestible, understandable, and that's why I don't think Tenet will be quite as popular as Inception was, because it is harder to take in this film. And I think that there are some moments in Tenet that are extremely rewarding in a way that Inception wasn't. But Inception to me is a top tier Nolan film. It's one of my favorites, but I think that Tenet is a really strong entry in Nolan's sort of exploration of time. It's not going to be one of my favorites, but maybe that will change with how I view films and how time passes. So maybe over the course of time, I will grow to enjoy it more. But I did thoroughly enjoy Tenet from its first watch. It certainly wasn't as strong in terms of that emotion as I was hoping for. By the end, I was rooting for the characters to win and succeed. The sort of villain motives and stakes are revealed extremely late on in the film, so I'm really guided through this film. I'm sort of a passenger of a viewer, but without really any idea of what this is all leading to. And there were promises early on in the movie about this, being World War III and all that. But, the actual real stakes and the real reason we're doing what we're doing, or the characters are, that doesn't come up until very late on. And I know that Nolan loves to pull information back to keep us guessing. And I agree. I think that's a really good thing he does. And I wish more directors would be like this. But I think with this, he actually went a bit too far, again, because I found that when the stakes were finally revealed, what everyone's motivations were, maybe motivations is a better word, things changed a little, because now I was like, right, now I'm in it. But I would have preferred maybe some of that earlier on, maybe not for necessarily the characters to have known, but maybe, me as an audience member to have a bit more information, because we're sort of in the main shoes of the protagonists as they are going through this and learning. But we're rarely ever sort of ahead. We're always sort of playing catch up as audience, which is good because it keeps you on your toes. But I think sometimes the audience are lagging a little bit too far behind in this one, as opposed to other Nolan entries. But I did enjoy this film. Overall, I came away really appreciating this film for existing. This is a film that I will gladly rewatch. I'm glad he's made, even though it's got flaws for me. No movie is flawless, but this is not my favorite Nolan entry. It doesn't go above Inception for me, or even Interstellar, but it is still an extremely strong movie, and I think that's just because Nolan makes films at such a high standard. And the music as well. I'm going to be listening to that soundtrack all the time. What a soundtrack. I'd love to know in the comments below what you thought of Tenet if you've had the chance to go and see it at the cinema. It feels weird being back in cinemas again, but such a nice experience. So good to be back, and with everyone being socially distant and everyone having face masks and being very, kind and considerate to others was, a really wonderful experience for me going back. With real true film lovers, everyone in there seemed to enjoy their experience too. It's just good that we're back. Thank you all again. Would love to know, like I said before, in the comments what you think of the movie Tenet. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll tune in with you on Thursday for the next episode with a guest of the My Generation podcast.